In this lesson, we're going to launch Corel Photo Paint to help us adjust images that we're using here in Corel Draw. So you can see I've opened up a file. It's called menu1.cdr. If you've got the exercise files and you're following along, open it up from the Lesson 16 folder of those exercise files. Now this is a project that does contain several bitmaps. I've got images throughout page 1, and if I go over to page 2, I've got some images there as well. If I want to make sure that those images look their best, we know we can use the Image Adjustment Lab. We talked about that in a previous lesson. But if we want to take it a step further, we can go into Corel Photo Paint right from Corel Draw to manipulate that image. So I'm looking at this one over here on the right side of page 1. It's a little bit dingy looking. So I'm going to click on it, and as soon as I do, you'll notice up here on the property bar that Edit Bitmap has shown up. There's Trace Bitmap as well, something we saw in the previous lesson. We can access it from here. But right now what we need to do is make that image stand out a little better. So we're going to go over here to Edit Bitmap. This is what's going to launch Corel Photo Paint. Now we can also launch Photo Paint right from our application launcher here. It's the last option on the drop down. We could go through our start menu, but because we've selected an image, this image will be opened up in Photo Paint for us doing it this way. So let's do that. Select the image, click Edit Bitmap, and then just wait for Corel Photo Paint to launch. Now when it does, like I said, our image will be front and center. That's where we can get into some real technical adjustments. All right, first of all, it's very difficult to understand what I'm seeing here because I'm zoomed in so far. It's a very large image that's being used in a small way on my menu. So the first thing I'm going to do here in Photo Paint, which looks a lot like Draw, you've got your menu bar, toolbar, context-sensitive property bar. There's the toolbox down the left-hand side. I'm going to go to my Zoom tool here, give it a click, and now from the property bar, I'm going to click the drop-down and choose to fit. As soon as I do that, now I can see my entire image. All right, I'm going to go back to my pick tool now, give it a click, and now I'm ready to start making adjustments. The first thing I want you to notice though is on the toolbar up here, the very last button is Finish Editing. That's where I'm going to go when I'm done correcting this photo. So if I go up to the Adjust menu, for example, you'll notice that I can access the Image Adjustment Lab right from here, but I've also got Auto Adjust. I can straighten an image. We did that in Draw, but we can do it here in Photo Paint as well. And then I want you to see this down below. Contrast Enhancement, Local Equalization, Histogram Equalization, Sample Target Balance. Look at all of this stuff. All of these options allow me to get down to the very nitty-gritty of my image, correcting things like hue, saturation, and lightness, working with colors and channel mixers and so on. So we can get very technical and do a whole title just on Photo Paint. But we're going to go up here to Auto Adjust and see what happens. When I click on Auto Adjust, right away you're going to see this looks a lot better. If I click Undo, you'll see what it looked like before the Auto Adjust. Click Redo, and you can see it's a much sharper and a little bit brighter image. But I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to go back up to Adjust, and I'm going to come down to the Image Adjustment Lab. Notice that it's the same Image Adjustment Lab screen that we saw when we used it in Corel Draw. So I'm going to maximize this. I can take snapshots and use them down below, but I've got all of these options and sliders down the right-hand side. So I'm going to bring my temperature a little bit to the left here to warm it up. The tint, maybe I'll come a little bit to the left here. Not too far, -6 looks good. The saturation, to give it a little more color, I'm going to go above 0. That kind of makes it a little more vivid. Brightness can be increased, not too much. 9 is good. Contrast, I'd like to increase that too. There, that looks pretty good. Now I can work with my highlights, shadows, and midtones as well. I'm going to brighten the highlights by clicking and dragging to the right. Darken my shadows by going to the left, and the midtones, I'll leave them right there at 0. So already I've made a number of adjustments, and this looks so much better. So if I'm done, I click OK down at the bottom. It takes me back. You see the adjustments right away in this preview, and all I have to do now to save this is either go to my Save button or click Finish Editing, and I'll be prompted to save those changes. So I'll click Finish Editing. I'm going to answer yes to save those on layer 1. Notice it's not the file saved somewhere. It's actually on layer 1 in Corel Draw. So when I click yes, it's saved, it's closed up, and now I'm done with Photo Paint. So I can go to the very top right corner and close it up. This returns me back to my CorelDRAW file where the image looks a whole lot better. Let's zoom in there with our zoom tool, F2, or click the zoom tool, your choice, and zoom into that image. That's much, much better. I'm going to click my pick tool and press Shift F4 to zoom out to see the entire menu. I'll deselect by clicking off the page. Of course, I'd want to save those changes to my file, clicking the Save button or Control S. And that's just a very tip of the iceberg when it comes to editing bitmap images like photos in Corel Photo Paint. Now, there's a whole lot more we can do in Photo Paint, and in the next lesson, we're going to check out the Cutout lab.